Listening Library presents The Amazing Spider-Man 2 Junior Novel, adapted by Brittany Candau and Nachi Marsham. Read for you by MacLeod Andrews.
Chapter 1, in which Spider-Man finds some plutonium, but loses his shoes. The tires of the tow truck screeched loudly as it made a tight turn and accelerated down the street. It wasn't the first time a tow truck had driven way too fast down the streets of Manhattan. It probably wasn't even the first time a tow truck hauling an Oscorp armored car had gone shooting down the streets of Midtown. However, it probably was the first time a tow truck driven by a tattooed mobster had sped down a street in Midtown Manhattan while towing a stolen Oscorp truck full of plutonium. Probably. "Get out of my way!" the driver of the truck yelled while swerving through the streets. The police were chasing him, but Alexei, the tattooed man behind the wheel, wasn't alone. His fellow thieves were armed and ready to hold off the police as they made their getaway. As the truck neared Times Square, a colorful cross-section of humanity stood on the sidewalks, watching the high-speed chase get closer and closer. Tourists, construction workers, office drones, and people dressed in lively costumes passing out advertisements stood shoulder to shoulder, craning their necks to get a better look at the action. A guy dressed like Spider-Man leaned over to a woman dressed like the Statue of Liberty. "Hey there," said the guy in the Spider-Man costume. "What's happening?" "An Oscorp truck was on a delivery run. Some guys hijacked it," said the woman in the Statue of Liberty outfit, looking over the quality of the Spidey suit. "Nice outfit." "Thanks," said Spidey. "You too." The sirens were getting closer as the Statue of Liberty continued. "Anyway, they've been going for like 74 blocks. They say it's carrying plutonium. You know, radioactive? Man, if one of those canisters blows." She trailed off as the tow truck shot by them. "You had me at plutonium," said the guy in the Spidey suit, leaning dangerously off the sidewalk and into the street. As the police cars shot by, he reached out and grabbed one of them. He was pulled off his feet, sticking to the side of the car. The Statue of Liberty could only look, shocked, as the car chase disappeared down the street. That was not a costume. She'd been talking to the real Spider-Man. Spidey hadn't been planning on getting involved. He had places to go and people to see, and he knew better than most how good the police were at catching criminals. But as soon as he heard about the radioactive materials rocketing through the streets of New York, he knew what needed to be done. He jumped from the police car, flew into the air, and fired a strand of webbing toward the cop car in front of him, quickly moving up the stream of cars that were chasing the tow truck. As he jumped into the air, aiming for the police car directly behind the speeding truck full of angry mobsters, the front page of the newest edition of the Daily Bugle fluttered up and plastered itself to his face. Dropping onto the hood of a police car, he leaped off, corkscrewed in the air, and landed on the truck while looking at the newspaper. It was a giant picture of his head with a headline that read, "Spider Menace," in large letters. "That's not even clever," Spider-Man said, tossing the paper into the air and returning to the matter at hand. He swung to the driver's side of the truck, seemingly oblivious to the chaos all around him. "Hi," he cheerily said to the truck's driver. "I'm Spider-Man. Not my given name, obviously." The driver frantically swerved the truck back and forth to shake Spider-Man loose. It wasn't going to help, seeing as how the hero's spider-like abilities let him stick to the truck like glue. He didn't even need to use both hands, which was made clear when he reached out to the driver and tried to shake his hand. The driver, equal parts enraged and annoyed, shouted in a deep Russian accent at the top of his lungs, "Get off!" "So you're not a shaker?" asked Spider-Man. "Are you a hugger? Look, not to rush you, but I'm running a little late. Can we just cut to the part where you start to cry and give up?" He looked ahead of the speeding truck, trying to find a good spot to bring it to a halt. But before he could do anything, the driver barked an order in Russian into a walkie-talkie. "What is that accent?" Spider-Man asked. "Boston? Philly?" He craned his neck to see who the driver was talking to, and noticed that the back of the armored car the truck was towing had opened. Before he knew it, a metal container was flying out. The driver must have told his partners in crime to toss one of the several containers of plutonium to distract Spider-Man. The wall crawler instantly did a backflip off the front of the truck, twisted in midair, and shot a stream of webbing at a container that was rolling on the street. He pulled the container to himself and swung to the roof of a nearby police car. He knew he had to catch up to the truck and stop the criminals from getting away, but he had to leave the dangerous substance somewhere safe first. "Do not drop this," he said to the police officer in the car. "Two hands." The startled cop took the container from Spider-Man and watched as the red and blue hero jumped back into action, swinging at high speed after the truck dragging the stolen armored car. Nearby, a man named Max Dillon hurried down the crowded sidewalk. He was wearing a blue jumpsuit with his Oscorp employee badge attached to the pocket of his shirt. Carrying an armful of blueprints, he had the look of someone constantly distracted from what was in front of him. Max was trying to get to work, but the street was jammed full of people who kept bumping into him. "Excuse me," Max uttered to a man in a suit. "Excuse me," he said again after being jostled by another person. "Hey, ow! Hey, person here?" Another busy commuter bumped into Max's arms, knocking one of his blueprints loose. "Hey!" Max exclaimed, reaching down into the street to grab his blueprint before it could roll away. He had been so focused on trying to get to work, he hadn't heard the sirens from the police who were chasing the fleeing truck, or the truck roaring down the street. He looked up just in time to see the truck hit a parked taxi with a massive crunch. The taxi went flying, straight at Max. Fortunately, Spider-Man had seen all this and was able to grab Max a split second before the taxi crashed into the street where he had been standing. "You!" Max uttered, stunned. You're Spider-Man!" "Costume totally gave me away, huh, Max?" said Spider-Man. Do you know me?" Max asked, confused. He was a low-level electrical engineer for Oscorp. He'd always felt like no one knew his name. "Your badge," Spider-Man said, pointing at the Oscorp ID pinned to Max's shirt pocket. He pointed to the blueprints Max was clutching in his arms. "Those look important." Spidey and Max landed. Max tried to answer, but was starstruck. This was his hero, Spider-Man. They are. They're building a new power grid, and I have some ideas. I mean, some thoughts, some notions," he rattled off quickly, clearly excited about the chance to prove himself. "People treat me like I'm nobody, but I'm gonna show 'em I'm somebody." No, you are somebody, Max," Spider-Man said. "You're my eyes and ears out there. I need you, okay? Stay safe." And just like that, he was gone, leaping into the air and swinging after the escaping truck and its stolen cargo. "Okay," said Max, inspired by Spider-Man's heroism. "Then that's what I am, your eyes and ears. Wow, Spider-Man." Spider-Man had just about caught up to the damaged truck when he saw that the police had set up a roadblock ahead. The truck sped up. They were going to ram the barricade. The police clearly had their hands full. The criminals climbed to the back of the Oscorp truck and began tossing some of the radioactive containers onto the street, while two more goons leaned out with weapons ready to fire. Before they could open fire, Spider-Man webbed the guns out of their hands. He quickly threw himself into the back of the truck, using his speed and his strength to knock out the thugs. Just then, the driver floored it, shooting the truck forward even faster. The remaining containers holding the plutonium had been knocked loose in the struggle, and some of them started to fly out of the truck.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?